Sure.
Welcome to the Choose on Purpose podcast. This is the WOW series, which is the wisdom of women. I'm your host, Becky Plautz, and the wisdom that we get to hear and be inspired with is Nancy Kalsow, the real expert. And I want to just quickly reference that if you haven't heard anything about Nancy or our conversation from the podcast, she's been on the podcast before. Episode 71, from struggles to self discovery, embracing growth, confidence, and purpose, which was super fun. So, welcome back, Nancy.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. We always love hanging out together.
We sure do. And I just love that this is called Wisdom of Women. And and I don't know when that came about for you. Well, I kind of do. We talked about that. But my word for 2025 is wisdom. And I
Yeah,
totally didn't make the connection until you said it at the beginning of this podcast. So how fun is that?
that's always fun. And maybe not planned, but totally on purpose, right? Totally,
Oh, for
totally on
for
purpose.
sure. For sure. Yep.
I love it. Well, yeah, this series is really about amplifying the voices of bold women, leaders, and I know both Nancy and I both talk about leadership as, everyone, like we're leading our lives, right? And showing up with intention is really about the wisdom of women being shared in this podcast series and, sharing more about our purpose and um you're someone that truly redefines, what it really means to lead high performing teams, also not just ourselves but teams with humanity at the center of showing up and leading people. So I always appreciate Nancy's passion for seeing people as individuals and understanding that ripple effect is something that our world and our workplaces, they always need more of. Um, so yeah, Nancy, thanks for saying that you wanted to come back onto the show, share some more about your journey and the wisdom that you've been collecting along your path this year, especially when your word is wisdom. Like, we're in for a treat.
Yes. And we sure yeah, and it's always a treat to choose your word, right? Like when I
Yeah.
chose that word, it was like all about sharing wisdom. And what I'm actually receiving is gaining wisdom, right? So
Mm,
it's just been really eye-opening. Sometimes our intentions lead us down the path that we're meant to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I always think about how I don't know if I've ever really intentionally chose my word for the year since I've been doing it. It is really something that comes to me that I'm like, can't get it out of my head. It's showing up everywhere. My brain, my Raz is just like checking it everywhere and it keeps coming to me. And I'm like, okay, that is the word. Was that wisdom for
Yes.
you or?
Yeah, it was. And it showed up several times. I had selected like one, several other words, thinking that was the one.
Okay.
I remember one of them was respect,
Mm,
and one of them was legacy because I'm really big on living in your legacy. And so I
yeah.
thought, oh, that'll help me stay grounded in the importance of living our legacy every day. And then wisdom kept showing up, like
Mm,
it was probably telling me there's more for you to learn about legacy, right? But or more, just more to learn in general. So yeah. And so I actually changed it in like early February.
okay.
So I start and then I was like, no, it just keeps showing up. And then I added the word creative to it.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and partly because and you helped me on that journey, Becky, because I was talking about this is my year to write the second book in my series.
Yeah.
And so I had writing Wednesdays, and then I was like writing wisdom Wednesdays. Like, this is my wisdom that I'm putting in paper, right?
Mhm.
And so that has it's really manifested in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And So Nancy is the creator of the Real Framework, which is really a powerful approach to leadership that fosters respect, engagement, and high functioning life, teamwork, all of those things. So I of course you would say respect and legacy. Like it's one of those really big pieces of your life and your journey coming through you, sharing that wisdom, writing your books and running book studies and hearing these words all the time. Like it makes sense that you kind of had to go through a little bit of more of a filter maybe to kind of, get more clarity for yourself and just feel into what that word, that representation or that guide is for you this year. So I love that creativity came into there too. That makes total sense to me. Hmm.
Yeah.
So good. So
It
good.
all comes together to be exactly what we need. The more we
Yeah.
focus on where we're, on who we are, the closer we can get to what we need for the next
Hmm.
step.
Yep.
Mhm.
Bringing it back and influencing the future generations with what we're doing now and in the present. And yeah, that's important. So a lot of that was actually reflected in the episode that I referenced, episode 71. So go back and listen to the first interview with Nancy on the show, because we dove into a lot of foundational pieces that I've been building on with some questions that I have set for Nancy in this next episode that we're doing right now for you. Diving deeper into honoring individuality in teams, because as you heard a little nugget there, that she is in the process of drawing that out for this book that she's currently writing, and it's really about knowing who you are and leading with authenticity, just for me on the sidelines, getting to hear and experience Nancy being in that process. So if you haven't listened to that conversation, the first one, go hear that also, because it's just going to give you such a beautiful foundation to experience and see Nancy as she's sharing more wisdom with us here. So
Yeah, thanks for the reminder on those foundational pieces we've already laid, and that also just reminds me that yes, the work that I've already done is solid, and I'm building on it.
yeah,
And I think sometimes we can forget that, especially as busy women who, are wanting just a lot of different things out of life. And so to celebrate that, yeah, I've I've done some of this work, and it's taking me to the next level, the next place.
yeah. I love it. Okay, we'll get ready to be inspired by this conversation as we step into more wisdom here. No pressure, Nancy. We're just going to be ourselves and chat, which is the best part of being able to
It
do that,
is.
and expanding. So,
Yes.
um, Nancy, I really wanted to start out with just highlighting how much I know that you believe that knowing your who is key to really that greatness, right? Like both in individuals and in teams, as I've heard you, blossoming in this conversation outside of all of the podcasts and things that you're sharing right now about your work. But, diving into this philosophy, I would love to just highlight. It was something that caught my attention on your form that you put on there. And it was humanity. And this is one of the things that I mentioned to you on a side conversation the other day, because I was like, I'm bringing it up. Like I'm starting there. I really want to dive into that a little bit just to kind of give us some framework about how that ties into leadership. So tell us a little bit about humanity.
Oh, as soon when you said it, I was like, my heart's like, oh yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, we often talk about kindness and compassion and love, and all we need is love, those kind of concepts, right?
yeah,
And um, as I was thinking about that, what I realized is, but we're often we're held back by our fears and wanting to be seen ourselves. And so, this idea came from combining the word who with humanity, because in
Mm,
a lot, when we talk about humanity, we're often talking about the human race collectively, and there is a lot of goodness in that, and like taking good care of all humans, and clearly people like Mother Teresa and others have just been all about serving humanity. um, as I looked at that, or think about that, I realized that so many people, when we talk about as our collectiveness, and especially in the world as large as it is and as connected as we are today with social media, and just everything is just so in our face about each other. And so what I realized is that there's this underlying piece that is kind of missing in humanity, and that is our individuality and our who we are, and
mm,
how we bring that collective goodness to humanity. So I just was playing around with it, and I thought, humanity is really about um, respecting our uniqueness, but nurturing our greatness. And so, respecting each other as who we are, so that we can collectively show up to serve others with that love and kindness and respect.
mm.
So that's what I've been playing with, and trying to, like, I've been thinking about t-shirts. I want to put humanity
Yeah.
on there, and just really dive into the greatness of individuals, and our purpose. We're all here for a purpose. And I strongly believe that. And a lot of times we're that's our path, as we're kind of trying to figure that out. But the bottom line is our heart knows. Like, we already know. And when the closer we get to being ourselves and who we are, the more we learn about who we really are.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Right. I mean, this is a really important conversation for, leaders, entrepreneurs, change makers in the world. It's really critical to get this out into the world for people to start to really grasp what you're saying and understanding, like, this will empower people to thrive, right? To bring more humanity into their work, the way that they collaborate, the way that they choose to step out and, look for that legacy and the way that they're leading for that. And I love that. I love the combination of the words, and I could totally see that going on the front of a t-shirt or a sweatshirt. I want a sweatshirt, but
Me too. I love sweatshirts.
I love it. That's awesome. So when team members understand their own who, right, which is like their identity, their strengths, their values, they show up more authentically. Like, I already know that from my own experience, not even like in a corporate business setting or anything like that. So thinking about, like, on a higher level, how important that is. And I mentioned we talked a little bit about in the previous episode, Nancy, about the gem work and the value of knowing to the core, like, what we value about ourselves and the pieces of who we are. So that really goes just so beautifully with the work that I already know. Again, this is just a building on and an expansion of the work that you've done in the past. And now we're looking at, like, leaders honoring individuality and being able to foster the environment, so that there's trust and innovation, and I think really more resilience in the workplace and in community. Um, yeah, I love this mission of getting humanity rolling out there.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, that's, I go back and forth, like, okay, imposter syndrome or whatever. Like, who am I to claim this word, right? And oh my gosh, it's like Whoville from Dr. Seuss thing. So I talk myself out of it, instead of recognizing the greatness behind it. But something that really sticks with me, and when this word first came to mind, is I love Simon Sinek and
Mm,
his perspective on, especially for companies, that people want to know our why. Why does the company exist? Why are we here to serve you? Why did we decide to deliver this product or offer this service? And that's what people really want to know. They want to understand the humanness behind that, right? And as I was really learning more about that concept and applying it to my own coaching business, and so why am I doing this, and what's most important to me, and what's mine to do, and what is somebody else's to do based on our my uniqueness and their uniqueness.
mhm,
And what really showed up for me is that Simon Sinek's got a good thing going, right? Like, I love the why. And I believe that it's really hard to get at our why until we understand who we are. And so the why concept can work really good for teams, because a lot of times they've already identified, who they are by naming the company, right?
mhm,
However, I think it's important to kind of take a step back and really understand it. Well, yes, we talk about values, and we talk about, potentially our leadership tenets, our behaviors and expectations of our team members. Some teams do, not all are doing that, right? But talking about that is different than connecting it for each individual on the team.
mm,
uh, who you are, if you're not aligned with that company's who or the company's why, it's going to be really hard for you to deliver your authenticity.
mm,
So, however, when you know who you are, you can often make connections to the company's mission and values and vision that's really that is very specific to yourself, so that you are able to contribute more highly on that team. It's about finding that connection. So first, knowing
mm,
who you are, and if you're on a team, knowing who your teammates are, really seeing them for what they bring to the table, because they're bringing their uniqueness. It's very different. And you want to be able to say, hey, this isn't what I'm great at. Sally is, let's have her do that. Or Tim knows how. I've seen Tim in action. Can I partner with Tim on that? Right? That's the kind of stuff we want team members to be doing in order to lead effectively. Like, we're all leaders. And if people aren't leading in alignment with your business, well, they're gaining followers wherever they're leading. So, if they're a clock watcher, or, not taking on the projects, somebody's following them.
mhm,
So, so this is why it's so important. And I'm so passionate about it. Is it's like, we've got to help people make that connection, but we also have to understand who we are so we can make that connection to a greater why, and then take the actions that work together in alignment with the team, and have those tough conversations, right? About what's working and what's not, and where we are aligned and where we're really not. And that's on repeat.
mm,
So often, I think teams will, we have strategies. And this year, we're going to focus on, our disc profiles, and we're really going to get good at understanding those. Well, if that doesn't turn into next year too, and
right.
the year after that, and every time a team member joins your team, you've just lost your momentum with the power of that tool. So it's about consistent use of these strategies of, continuously reflecting together as a team, engaging with your team members, getting perspectives, and then aligning and saying, yeah, this is aligned with where our team is going. This isn't. And how are you aligned individually? So what that is. And now what actions are we taking together?
I love this. That's the example right there to experience the real framework. Beautifully just laid out right there. That was Nancy's real framework. And that's a way to put it in practice with the team. And Nancy, as you were talking, I look over at my notes and I have a quote from the first episode that I highlighted in my notes, and it was you said our differences are our uniqueness. I know that's something you say all the time, but then I highlighted and I have it in quotes from you. Um, it's our differences that make us unique, and we bring them to the that bring the wisdom to the table. So that's really what you're talking about, is how important it is that we take that uniqueness, the things that make our team members as individuals stand out, and then give them space to bring it to the table consistently and share their wisdom. And I chuckle because it has wisdom in it, the quote from you.
Well, of course it does. Like, I guess that's on purpose,
Mhm.
not intentionally by me, but that's the
Yep.
universe. Like, there it is.
Yep.
And that's what I believe. And so when you believe something so passionately, it's likely going to show up, right? And that's the collective wisdom of your team, is bringing that uniqueness. Um, yeah, it's I'm just pretty emphatic about this, because I just know how many teams squash ideas way too
Mhm.
early in a process. And or they oh, that's weird, or we tried that 2 years ago and it didn't work. I can't believe we're going to try it again. Those kinds of things. But what we don't do is allow the dialogue to take place to really understand what is unique about it this time, or what that perspective on this new idea can bring to the collectiveness of the where the team is headed, and again making those connections. So when change
Mhm.
occurs, when change is, and it's inevitable, right? We're going to change, we have to change, or especially teams and companies have to change, or they're going to become obsolete. So change is going to happen, and change is the best time to be using this toolkit, this framework, right? It's not a cycle, because there are times you need to be in alignment and gaining alignment more than you need to be
Mhm.
reflecting. You need to call things out that aren't in alignment and go there. You might, want to then reflect on how the conversation went about aligning, but you're not necessarily going reflect, engage, align, and lead. It's not a cycle. It's like, ooh,
Mhm.
we're not aligned on this. We need to get aligned. Hey, we're not taking the actions we committed to. We need to lead. You know, oh, wow, we haven't talked about this in a while. It's time we go deep on what this value really means, and let's engage on that, right? So
Yeah.
it's drawing out the tool that, these are just a nice framework to say this is how we live in our company, is we're always exploring, we're always aligning, we're always respecting each other.
Mm.
And yeah, yeah, there's so
I
much
love
more. I could
this.
just keep going and going.
Well, what I love is, right, I mean, that also gives space for recognition, and recognition isn't a luxury. It's something it's necessary for that long-term connection, retention, and success in a team, in a company, right? In a dynamic. It's like that's a necessity. And I love that you bring up respect again. And that's really, I know that that's foundational for a healthy team. Yet so many organizational structures, they fail to honor the individual. And I'm curious to ask, like, how do you see traditional leadership practices missing the mark on that? Is it just not giving the space to have those conversations consistently?
Yeah, I think that's some of it, and some of it is our egos get in the way.
Mm,
We know we're the leader, we know what's best, right? And so this is how we're going to do it. Um, in fact, I just did some little video snippets on this concept is that we squash the creative wisdom by not having these discussions and by just one person kind of stampeding through. And whether that's the leader, that might be the manager of the team, but more often than not, it's a team member. I'm not going to do that. There's no way in heck you're going to find me doing that. And I'm going to go do this instead. And so now you're misaligned. So it's all about, yes, creating, an opportunity to have the discussion, which is one of the biggest things I hear is, well, we don't have time. We don't have time.
Right.
Well, what you're spending time on, if you don't do that, is fixing what you didn't take the time to talk about.
Rehiring, finding,
Yes.
rebuilding a whole team to trust each
Yeah.
other and the new people. And
Yeah. 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 And so, this has says so much about retention because if people understand their role, where they stand, what the team is doing, how they're aligned to that, and they're encouraged and celebrated when they take the actions that are aligned with that, well, they're going to stay. But right now, we know, I mean, statistics show that 72% of the employees in your company are disengaged. They don't want to be there. They're not committed to what you're asking them to do, and not necessarily in entirety, but they're busy. They got busy lives. And so if you're asking somebody to give, 8 or more hours of their day to your company, you
yeah.
want them engaged. So how are you going to engage them? Well, you got to care about them. You got to know what their beliefs are, what their interests are, who they are, and how they want to contribute. This is why, I mean, I could just keep going because I'm like, I want to eliminate job descriptions. Like, I get it. I understand why they're there and there's all the legal aspects, but it's like, man, if we could just really interview people for who they are and then say, oh, have we got a role for you? Here's where you would fit into our company. Right. And we want to see you
Yeah.
shine there. Right. And
Yeah, that's
granted, that's not an easy thing. However, if you lay the framework for that and you arrive there where people are really fitting in the organization because they are aligned, you're going to have so much less turnover. You're not going to need to find the next candidate. That's another thing I hear from HR and recruiters. Human resources professionals and recruiters are all saying, well, the market's just so saturated. It's so hard to find a quality candidate. Really? Because I know a lot of people who are searching for jobs and they're quality candidates. And you're saying no to them. Why are you turning them away?
mm, yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, so being seen, heard, and known for impact, that really means living your legacy, right?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah.
And drawing out that uniqueness in others.
Yeah.
And so can you share a moment in your career where or when you felt truly that alignment for yourself?
Oh boy. Well, I have many from my first place of employment, my longest term employer. I was with them for 26 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have many and I feel very blessed to have that. Now, it doesn't mean all 26 years were great,
Right.
right? I
Right.
mean, there was a lot of
But there
growing
had to have been
pains.
alignment, right? That's a long time to
Yes.
some
Yes.
level.
Yes. And what when I felt the most aligned with that company and with the work I was doing was when I was literally told, Nancy, you know, there's this upcoming, this is our project, or, we'd be in a leadership meeting and, okay, we're going to have a merger with another company, right? These are the roles we need. And I could say, okay, I can do that, and I can do that really well, right? And I can be effective in that, as well as I had leaders who would come to me and say, hey, this is something we've been thinking about. We know that, you, one of the things they knew about me was that um, I was very passionate on delivering something when I knew it was right, and when I say right, it's like respectful, really bringing in that human element, the who piece. I
Alignment.
wanted to, yeah, yeah, alignment. I wanted to take care of people, and I wanted to find ways to do that that was in alignment with the company growing. And so that was where I would get, drawn in to then figure out, how do we do this? How do we grow in this area and bring people along with us?
Mm.
Right. So that was very well aligned. So I got asked to work on a lot of like projects, or, I mean, I started I started a call center back before call centers were popular.
Nice.
Why? Because I believed our customers deserved, what we called legendary customer service. Yeah. So legendary customer service meant that you serve each person who comes to you as a person. You cannot let one interaction merge with the next. Your attitude
Mm.
matters. Your your words matter. Your smile matters. I mean, I remember having mirrors next to the phones in our call center so that people could ensure they were smiling
Oh,
at the
wow.
customer. Yeah, because you could feel that. You could feel if somebody is smiling and wants to be there and is, concerned about or supportive in what you're calling about in that moment. And this was a financial institution. So you better
Yeah.
believe people are passionate about their money, they're emotional about their money, they're concerned about their money. Like they, are expecting quality care of their assets and their needs. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. I love that you shared that. Wow, that's really cool. I'm big on mirror work and knowing the way that we see our work, ourselves and stuff like that. So when you said that, I was like, oh wow, that's like next level, Nancy. That's amazing. So cool.
It,
And I
you know,
think,
it,
go
it's
ahead.
actually why I like Zoom. And the main reason, a lot of times people say, well, turn yourself off so you don't look at yourself. And I'm like, no, I want to make sure I'm smiling. I want to make sure I'm present, right?
Mm, that's
If
what I
I
was going
go
to say
off
too.
camera,
Present. Yeah.
yes, yes. If I go off camera, I'm not present. I know I won't be. Or if I because that's my mind will wander too,
Yeah.
right? So, because we are human. So it's like each person learns the tricks that will help them stay present, help them stay
Hmm.
engaged. And as a team member, understanding how your team members do that is important. And as a manager of a team or a leader of a team, it's even more important to
Right.
understand how each person connects in that way.
Yeah. That's so great because, right, like this is a beautiful example of how shifting a team perspective about themselves, um, I guarantee helped lead to transformation in that team dynamic that you're talking about, that you led that call center. Like it's like, what? This is a totally different perspective of um, leading a team to transformation, starting with self
Yes.
and the
Yes.
possibilities of that self-awareness, what if you didn't do
Mm-hmm.
that? What if they just moped around on the phone, by themselves and didn't have that energy and, enthusiasm come through and be shown to them? Mm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And
good.
like what you just mentioned made me think of the concept of emotional intelligence. And I love that as a combination of self-awareness and social awareness, and how believe in yourself and how you believe or interact with others, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of nuances to that too. However, like it's so much deeper than that. Like, yes, that's an important piece, but it's also important to understand what people are challenged with. And this is where I go to positive intelligence, which is, understanding what stops people from being the best. That's also something leaders have to understand.
Mm,
What's stopping this person from being engaged? What's stopping? So after you first you have to have the awareness, and then you have to be curious enough to ask the questions and to get the conversation going about what what would help to enhance our culture.
mm.
And it's always changing. Every time you bring a new team member in, every time you give somebody a promotion, right? This is why the consistency and this is why the framework works, because these are tactics that you're putting into every day. I call it, instead of a lifestyle, I call it a live style.
Mm.
Live these practices.
Yep. I love that. And I think about, hey, I don't know if you said the word unfolding, but like how it's always in process. And he talks a little bit about the presence and all of that. And it's really, I know that we have discussion about things unfolding and the way that it happens and it's on purpose and all those things that, those dynamics. But thinking about how your work and what we're talking about is how it's all inside, and then we're giving space and opportunity to um, work through or navigate challenges that come from within, and then are shown from outside. So thinking about like overcoming challenges, even with this framework, I have a question about that. And I want to
Okay.
know if you can walk us through how you personally navigate challenges using the real framework.
Of course you do, because I've said so. I love why. Yeah, I think I know where this question stems from, but it's bigger than this, right?
Yeah.
But at the beginning of this year, when I was talking to Becky, I had said, "Wait, if I'm going to be the real expert, I need to live real every day. Like these are my practices to live." And to a certain extent, they already were. But boy, when you heighten your awareness and you say, and at the end of every day, I'm saying, where did I reflect, engage, align, or lead today? Maybe I did all four, right? How did that have an impact? What wisdom am I gaining from that? So it's like putting them into practice. Navigating a challenge is I this is an area where, like, honestly, I'm still working on turning to my own framework when I'm in a challenge myself, right? I sometimes have to
Yeah.
be reminded, well, gee, Nancy, why don't you use your own framework? It's like, oh, yeah, because when you're in it, it's really hard to see that you're struggling, right? And so um, it's the practice of going there, and then and just understanding that it's basically about gaining understanding, right? You want
Mhm.
to understand what's happening in this situation. What's the challenge that you're navigating, and what is that impacting, and why is it important to you to whether it's remedy it or enhance whatever needs to be done. Why is that important? Why does this matter?
Mm.
um, and sometimes that's the work of an individual to do on their own,
Yeah.
or it's the work of a team to do together. hey, we're having this challenge.
Yeah.
Let's, which one of these tools is going to help us understand it more? You might start with engage and then, decide you're going to lead and take action and then reflect to see
Yeah,
what
I
works.
love that you bring that up too. You've mentioned that earlier, and I forgot to note on that, like how it doesn't have to be this set way. That it's not like you said, that cycle. It doesn't have to go in a specific order. That they really are all tools, and it's in a framework, to be able to support as a whole. And you can take one piece and get moving on it.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And sometimes the right piece will come forward. Like you'll know, oh gosh, we're not aligned on this because everybody's going different directions, right? So then
Mhm.
it might come forward. You're like let's talk about how we can build some alignment around this. Let's go back to clarify what it is, and and all those steps. Um, but it might be that you're not sure. Like you're like, I don't know, like, how what do we do now? It honestly, it really doesn't matter then. Choose one because
Mm,
it'll help you arrive at what is really needed, or start in reflection because reflection will help you disclose, what might really be the challenge.
yeah.
And the other thing about it with teams, like, so I have the Get Real book, which is reflect, engage, align, and lead yourself to greatness. Um, and the other thing with teams is to know that, yes, I'm encouraging teams to understand, to help individuals do their own work first, to learn more who they are and continuously do that work to continuously uncover who they are, along with aligning with the team and understanding your team members and then taking action together. But on a team, reflection doesn't mean you always have to reflect together, right?
Mm,
You might reflect individually and then gather notes and do some sort of an affinity diagram to pull together the like pieces and say, oh, this was a common theme, right? Or you might, like, even engaging doesn't always mean engage with one another. It might mean,
right.
well, we need to engage with the other teams, the other divisions. So who's going to talk to this team? Who's going to, right? What questions do we want to ask? What's our outcome? The outcome we're looking for. Um, you know, so any of them you can, as a team, it's not like, oh, we do everything as a team now. We reflect together, we engage together,
Right.
we align together. It's it's drawing in and researching anything that might be impacting the challenge that you're facing in that moment.
Okay, so I love this. If a leader is listening right now and is struggling with team morale or engagement, what's one small but impactful shift that they can make today?
Wow. So if when I'm working with leaders, what I do is I would tend to ask more questions, right? Before we decide what a step might be. Because there's a lot of nuances in a team.
Mm,
So is it an individual or a whole team that's your feeling is not engaged? How do you know they're not engaged? What behaviors are they demonstrating? Right?
mm,
Is that are telling you they're not engaged? And oftentimes it can be something as small as, um, and this can be, it depends on the manager, right? And how comfortable they are in having this kind of dialogue. But I think the biggest thing is to get very specific on what you notice. You know, I'm noticing that you're you're spending more time in the um, I'm just trying to make something up here. It's like you're spending more time walking to meetings and it looks like you might be, processing something. Is there anything you would like to share about that? Or I'm noticing you haven't talked. This is probably a better one. I'm noticing you haven't talked in the last couple of meetings. Is there something on your mind that you would like to share? Now, those only work if you've already established some trust that you're going to listen.
Right.
So this is why every team dynamic is just so different. And I have to better understand what is going on in the company that's making them disengaged or making you feel like they're disengaged. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, and that you say that because it makes sense for exactly what we've been talking about, like knowing the person, the individual, and having that connection, and why that's so integral to the whole of the team and the division, or the section of that company and everyone they collaborate with, right? Like it's important for that, because if you can see that there's some metrics changing or the dynamics um, lessening in some way, then you can maybe I think about how you can kind of tweak things versus have to take an overhaul, of the dynamic that's out of whack or out of alignment. Um, as you do that consistency that you've been talking about,
Yeah. And
make
what you
those
do with
quick
the information.
adjustments.
Right. Yeah. And what you do with the information when you get it, is really important. Um, but
Yeah,
also, yeah, practicing it and and then really, delivering on it. And so, so if we get real, right, a big part of um management leadership is there are just some things I like to add the raw word to this. We get real and we get raw. And
yeah,
raw is, this is not working. And we have to address those things that are not working. And we might be able to identify why. Um, and we might not. But the bottom line is that you, as in a company, you have an employee who is working for you that you are paying to do a job. So if they're not engaged and not committed, and you've done everything you can to support them in understanding why and how they might get more aligned, or even identify, one of the best things is when you can identify this isn't the company for them. They're
right.
not really aligned to our mission. And that can feel hard in the moment, but it's the best thing for both parties. And so getting raw with those discussions. So yeah, you can't always dance around it and like, well, let's try this and if you've got somebody who's repeatedly demonstrating these behaviors and they are tanking your team morale, well, there's a different way to address that. And then that becomes, that's the performance um, improvement that is, more regimented. But so often we can avoid a performance improvement that's regimented, like, starting in the early phases and recognizing what's going on. Um, and it's recognizing little things. Like one thing that I was, one of my video clips I just did is on clicks. We have clicks in the
Mm,
workplace. And
right.
if you think you don't, you're wrong. Like you do, because people like to hang out with like-minded people. So if you are, um, you know, believing that you don't have some of the common humanness that we have in every company, well, you're avoiding an opportunity to connect with people early on in the damage that's going to be done long term.
Mm,
So you have to kind of understand, and for lack of a better word, it might not be a click, but oftentimes they are. They turn into something, really serious or a label that we put on somebody. you know, oh, they never finish the project on time, so we're not going to even invite them. Never? Really? Did that happen once? Or if they have a reputation for that, what's that reputation about? Why
Mm.
don't they finish on time? You know, so it's but finding that out early rather than late. It's actually really great when people say they never finish a project on time. And then you could say never, like, can you give me an example? And they have a hard time finding one. Okay, then it happened one time. And then we know that's the time to start working on it,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah. That's so good. This is what I love too, Nancy, and how over the years of us knowing each other and just like seeing this framework come out of you and the power behind this because you are inquisitive and
mhm.
you ask the best like questions, and I know that's part of your coaching background and all those things too, but like so much of like Get Real and now the book for teams that you're working on, it's like so much of it is about asking questions, looking for understanding and finding some the humanity in the things that we're doing and giving that compassion and grace in the workplace. I know that's one of those taglines you keep saying, and knowing that this is part of the work that you're doing is bringing grace to the workplace. And I always love hearing the questions that you have and the depth that you bring to um you know growth.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's funny because that's not always how I see myself. I think, oh, I don't ask deep enough questions, So, but it's a practice, right? And
Yeah.
that is I'm getting better at that. That's the wisdom I gain as well as can then turn around and share.
Yeah. Okay, so I have one more question about recognition, and it's thinking about recognition, like what might be some practical ways that you would think that leaders could embed recognition into their culture, right? Beyond awards or performance reviews, you kind of mentioned a little bit about that. Any ideas around practical ways that a leader could do some embedding of recognition?
Oh yeah. Um, One is to realize that the most important thing that people want recognition for, or the people, is being seen and heard, right? Um, and so, as a leader, a team member, calling people by name,
Mm,
you are a unique individual. You know, good morning, Becky. Oh, morning, morning, morning as you're going down the hall,
yep.
right? Names are powerful. People feel seen when they heard their name. So names. Um, and then I think the other most common challenge with well, first you have to be aware. Like there's awareness of what do you want to recognize, right? Because one of the common mistakes that leaders make or even team members make is they leave the office or I forgot to give recognition today. So they say, good job today. Good job doing what? What do you want me to do more of? Right. And so it's not about waiting until all the time. It's about awareness, seeing something in action, and then saying, you know,
Mm.
hey Becky, I really appreciate the way you approached that challenging question in the meeting today and encourage us to talk about it instead of dance around it. Thank you.
Right. That feels so different, right? It's very
Yes.
specific, it's focused, and it's authentic.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it again, people, oh, I don't have time to do that. Well, you don't have to do it to every person every day. You build your, the respect for you is built on consistent practice of doing that. And if you need help doing it, use the 5 coin trick or whatever. Start your day with 5 pennies in your right pocket and move one to the left pocket every time you give specific recognition, right? So it's, are you seeing it? Name it, celebrate it. And then the most important thing is you also have to understand how each person likes to be recognized. Some people want you to call it out in the meeting, you know, hey, kudos to Becky who, found a workaround to that problem that was taking us 15 minutes and we got it down to 1 minute. Okay. That feels really good to some. And others are like, oh, geez, don't call me out. Like, what did I do? They're nervous,
Mhm.
right? And then understanding that and then helping them build their confidence to receive that.
Yeah. Oh, those are so good. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I
you're
see some
welcome.
memories and ideas flashing as you're sharing that. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Okay, so before we wrap up, there's a question I want to ask about what might be a powerful thought or piece of wisdom that you'd love to leave the audience with today, because we've covered a lot. So, anything that you haven't shared that you would love to wrap up with a thought from you, Nancy?
Thank you for asking. I feel like we've covered a lot of really good ground. And what I would maybe just add and remind people is that, um, who you are is more important than any role you play, rule you break, responsibility you have, or reality you face. And when we believe that for ourselves and for others, that's humanity.
Mm, yes, I love this. Okay, where can the listeners connect with you and learn more about your work?
Probably the best place is either my website, which is kalsowcoach.com. Kalsow is Kalsow. And otherwise, LinkedIn is also a fabulous place to connect with me.
Perfect. Okay, and then my final question for you, Nancy, is what are your final thoughts and advice for the leaders wanting to integrate humanity and the real framework?
I would say start with um, what about this conversation around humanity excites you and why it's important for you to build that and really understand what how the who-ness and honoring uniqueness of each team member can make an impact on your collective greatness. Put your strategy together
Mm,
and yeah, and then reach out to me. I love conversations around this. Coffee connection, a virtual connection. Let's talk because this is my passion. This is my belief. This is my love, and um, I want teams to be successful, and I want companies to be successful,
and you're
and I
doing
want
that.
individuals to be successful.
Yeah, I'm saying you're doing that one individual at a time also,
Yes,
right? Like
yes,
the
yeah,
impact of that.
yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Nancy, for being on the podcast today, for bringing your wisdom to the world, and yeah, just always being in my corner, supporting me on the podcast and the things that I do, and sharing your wisdom, everywhere that you go. Like I said, the questions that come out of your mouth, I'm always like, dang, that's deep, and like, oh, that takes you to the next level. It's so good to be surrounded by just powerful beings like you. So I appreciate you opening up, sharing some extra knowledge today on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you holding the space and yes, asking the deep questions of me.
Yes, yes. And okay, I'm going to do a little plug here for Nancy's Get Real book, which, yes, is an Amazon bestseller book. So start there. Go back to episode 71. If you haven't listened to that, go grab this book. It's so filled with the knowledge and wisdom that Nancy sprinkled into here today, that you can start with yourself and then get ready for the team book coming out and knowledge and wisdom being shared in that, as we speak. So go wow the world with your wisdom. Love yourself, live fearlessly, and do all things with purpose. Thanks for joining us.